Good evening and welcome to our take on the 2023-2024 coaching carousel in all of college football from yours truly, Jackson Johnson, and this man right beside me, the host of Sports Talk with Austin, Austin Williams. And we'll be going over our take on Michigan, Alabama, Washington, Texas A&M, amongst the teams in all of college football who have made a coaching change. How you doing tonight, man?
Doing pretty good. Looking forward to being live with you tonight, Jackson. Talking about some of these head coaches and their new homes and new places. And we'll talk about whether we think they succeed or not there. Obviously the big one, Jim Harbaugh going to the Chargers. I think that one's going to make headlines around the world, but already did. And we're just going to make even more headlines with it. And, Jed Fish going to Washington. Mike Elko going to A&M, replacing Jimbo Fisher. Plenty of great coaches to talk about. Jackson, let's get right into it, shall we?
Absolutely. And we're going to start off with Jim Harbaugh leaving for the Chargers and Michigan replacing him with Sherrone Moore. Now, what's your take on this move, Austin? I mean, I know that Harbaugh pretty much did everything he wanted to do in Ann Arbor. Beat Ohio State, take back the Michigan State rivalry for Michigan State, and then win that natty for Michigan. But there was one thing he said that he couldn't do over in college football, and that's win a Lombardi.
Yeah.
What do you think?
This is one of those, Jackson, that at first when I saw this news, I was kind of surprised and I kind of wasn't. I thought maybe he felt like he was building something special at Michigan and maybe thought if he had a chance to repeat like Georgia did in 2021 and 2022, that he might come back and try to do that. But like you said, though, Jackson, he's had the desires to go win a Lombardi, to go win a Super Bowl, what has eluded him in his career, something that his brother already has, something that his brother could say he has that he doesn't. And, that's what he's always wanted. After he set out a goal at Michigan, beat Michigan State, beat Ohio State, win the Big Ten, win the Natty. He checked all those boxes and then some. And Jackson, maybe it's good to go out on top,
Yeah,
especially with Jim Harbaugh. He's done everything he could at Michigan. What else could he have done at Michigan besides win another one? He's checked every box there. Now he's off to LA to hopefully get the Chargers back to where they once were as well, when they were winning games and making playoffs. Now, Super Bowl, we'll have to wait on that.
Well, I mean, I think he could get it done over at Charger Land. I mean, it looks hard, but I mean, if the Spanos family can keep their sticky little fingers away from Harbaugh, let him do his magic, I think he can get it done. And we don't know how long Andy Reid's got at the Chiefs. So, I mean, we know that the Chiefs-Chargers is always quite a battle in the AFC West. It's really going to be a battle now with Jim Harbaugh as the head coach of the Chargers. Now, as for Sherrone Moore, he's the new head coach for Michigan. And we haven't seen a lot of guys leaving for the transfer portal. Everybody's happy with Sherrone being the next head coach. I mean, I know I'm pretty happy with it, but what's your take on the move, Austin?
I feel like Jim Harbaugh left this to Sherrone Moore to have someone that he knows he could trust to take care of it. It's like Michigan was like Jim Harbaugh's baby. He's going out of town on a business trip, and he wants to make sure the Michigan's taken care of while he's gone. And Sherrone Moore embodies Michigan. He's everything Michigan is, and he knows he will take care of Michigan while he's gone. And I feel like with Sherrod Moore, like you said, not a lot of guys are entering the transfer portal because I think they love Sherrod Moore and they want to play for him as well. And I feel like Michigan, they're going to be at the top of the food chain with Sherrod Moore for years to come. Now, could they take a dip down just a little bit? Possibly. They may not be beating Ohio State 3 straight years anytime soon, but they could very well possibly be still win the Big Ten and possibly still be one of the better teams in college football. So I like the hire overall for both sides, especially for the Chargers. They need some winning pedigree to come in there and teach Justin Herbert how to win and teach the Chargers organization as a whole what it's like to win at a high level and hopefully get them back to relevancy. And like you said, Jackson, they're in a division with Patrick Mahomes, in the division with the Raiders and the Broncos. It's going to be very tough for Jim Harbaugh to win the division as long as Patrick Mahomes is in there, but I don't think the playoffs are out of the discussion. And as for Sherrod Moore, I'm sure he'll have Michigan in the conversation in 2024 for possibly winning the Big Ten again. But I like both hires overall.
Well, I will say though, I still believe Michigan, Ohio State's going to be quite a battle for the next few years to come. I mean, I've been saying, anytime I've appeared on The Voice of College Football for the Ocho or anytime on After Dark, I've been saying, look, Sherrod Moore could be the next Ryan Day, and I mean that in a positive way, because I mean, when Ryan Day was the interim coach at Ohio State, he did fantastic. And when Urban Meyer retired, Ohio State was like, we feel good on where Ohio State's going. So we're going to make Ryan Day our next head coach. And I think Michigan made that same move with Sherrod Moore. Let me tell you, it's going to be a wild next 10 years with Sherrod Moore and Ryan Day as the head coaches at both respective programs.
Now, I must say this, Jackson. Who do you think has more pressure on them, Jim Harbaugh or Sherrod Moore? Who has more pressure going into next year, in your opinion?
That's a good question. I'm going to say Harbaugh.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking the same thing because Sherrod Moore, if he wins the Big Ten again and gets to the playoffs and makes it far, it would be like a job well done. We didn't expect you to win it all. But as for Jim Harbaugh, he's leaving something really good. And now he's going over to the NFL and going to the Chargers, in which they're expected to win and compete at a high level with all the talent they have. So Jim Harbaugh, in my opinion, if his window for a Super Bowl could be closing very soon, so he needs to get it done if he's going to get it done. And the Chargers, I think, is a great destination to do that.
Yeah, that is for sure. I mean, they got that LA market. So maybe with Harbaugh as the Nets head coach, people will stop forgetting them about being in LA, start realizing that, hey, they're the LA Chargers, not the San Diego Chargers. Because a lot of people tend to call them that still.
Yeah, that is kind of funny. But overall, Jackson, I grade this an A minus for both sides. In my opinion, I think it works out for both sides at the end. I think Michigan's going to have success with Sherrod Moore. I think the Chargers, they're going to be in the playoff conversation for a long time to come. Who knows? They might even compete in the AFC in the next 2 or 3 years. But overall, I give this an A minus. I think this works out really well for both teams. What's your letter grade, Jackson?
I'm going to give the Chargers hiring Harbaugh an A, and I'm going to give Michigan hiring Moore an A minus. But I think this works out well for everybody.
Mm-hmm. Now, one that may not work out well for everybody or may have too high expectations is Alabama. Nick Saban has retired. He is off in the sunset. gone, retired, not coming back. But Kalen DeBoer, the man who took the Washington Huskies to the national championship, will be replacing Nick Saban. And Jackson, as the resident Alabama man, give us your thoughts on this hire and tell us what you thought when you heard Nick Saban's retirement and what you think about Kalen DeBoer coming in and trying to fill some awful big shoes.
Well, when I found out Nick Saban retired, my three guesses were going to be Ole Miss head coach Lane Kiffin, Texas head coach Steve Sarkisian, and Washington head coach Kalen DeBoer. Those were my top three choices for Alabama. Now, who did Alabama pick? They went with Kalen DeBoer for Washington. And I got to say, this guy has been a consistent winner his whole career. He has won everywhere he has gone. I mean, he won at Fresno State. He won at Sioux Falls. He won the 2 years he was at Washington, got them to the Natty. And now he's at Alabama. And I think he's going to do a fantastic job over in Tuscaloosa.
Yeah, I agree with you, Jackson. I think Kalen DeBoer, like you said, has been a winner wherever he's gone. I mean, Jackson, do you remember what Washington's record was the year prior he took over that job?
4-8.
They were 4-8, and they lost to Montana. Let that sink in. They lost to Montana. And this is a team that we're talking about that finished national runners-up this year. Like, what coach could come into a organization like that and just turn it on like a flip of the switch? It takes a 4-8 team 2 years later all the way to a national championship. Who could do that? Not very many. There's very few coaches that you could say that could do that. And, Kalen DeBoer, I know all the expectation, all the eyes are going to be on him, especially since he's at Alabama. Jackson, I know a lot of people out there are going to be like, when he loses that first game, all the criticism is going to come out on the world on him. Like, oh, Nick Saban would have never lost here. Or, oh, Nick Saban wouldn't have done this. And it's just like, guys, I get it. You love Nick Saban and you have high expectations. But Kalen DeBoer, this is his ship now, and he's going to run it the way he wants to. You've seen what he could do at Washington. He's going to do the same here at Alabama. It's just that everybody does things different. And don't get me wrong, Jackson. Get me wrong. Like, the second Alabama goes 10-2 and doesn't get a bye in the playoffs, with the new 12-team playoffs coming out in 2024, I'm sure the whole world's going to be like, oh, Nick Saban wouldn't have lost 2 games. Oh, Nick Saban wouldn't have this. And that's one of the biggest things that concerns me about this. No matter who took the job at Alabama, they were always going to have that hanging over their head. Like, Jackson, how do you think he can overcome that? Because that's a big shadow to follow in. How can he overcome that? Or is there no overcoming that, in your opinion?
I think he can overcome it. It's going to be tough, but he can get it done. I think he can do a great enough job to win at Alabama. He's going to have a lot of stuff they didn't have at Washington. He's going to be able to have 5-star recruits come over to Tuscaloosa. Unfortunately, you couldn't get 5 stars. You could get 1 or 2, maybe 3 or 4 or 5, but not a whole lot of 5 stars coming over to Seattle, Washington.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's going to be the thing, Jackson. He's going to have 5-star caliber players left and right. He's going to be like, I never seen much of this at Washington. Don't get me wrong. Now that Washington's been winning, they might get a few more than they originally would have. But now that he's Alabama, he's going to get all of them. But I will say, though, Jackson, one key thing about this is you do have a couple players that did transfer out. Like Isaiah Bond, he transferred out to Texas. And Jackson, is that concerning that some of the players did decide to transfer out? Or is that just part of when you hire a new coach, some players just don't want to be with that new coach. They were originally there for the coach that was there. Does that concern
Both.
you at all?
On the one hand, it concerns me, but on the other hand, I'm like, this is part of the business. I mean, that's the way it goes in college football. I mean, if you feel like Tuscaloosa is not the best opportunity, well, I'm sad to see you go, but I wish you nothing but awesomeness.
Yeah, it should be interesting. I will say this though, Jackson. What letter grade would you give this hire?
An
Hire
A,
an
an
A.
A.
I'm gonna give this a B plus. I'm gonna give it a B plus. I know that's a
Ooh.
little low, but it's gonna be hard for him to not say recruit, but to he's gonna have some struggles and challenges. I think in year one at Alabama. Don't get me wrong. I'm not gonna go out on a cliff here and say they're gonna go 7-5. We're not gonna go that crazy, but they may that it may take some time to get his new schemes in and his new coordinators in and get this team running how he likes it. But I think this is a great hire. I just don't think it'll be a home run hit right off the bat. I think it's going to take some time to implement all this. But Alabama, I think, is going to be fine. They're going to be alive and well. Alabama's still going to be winning games, and teams are still going to be storming the field after they beat them.
Well, I mean, I guess the dynasty's alive, somewhat.
But Jackson, with Kalen DeBoer going to Alabama, who steps in and takes his place? Jed Fish, who left Arizona after Jed Fish comes in and he leaves Arizona. Well, Kalen DeBoer, he's out. Jed Fish is in. And this is very interesting because I did not see this hire coming, to be honest with you, because let's be honest, Jackson, he was building something really special in Arizona, but Washington was able to pay up the money, and here we are. Jackson, give me your thoughts on this hire, and were you surprised at all, especially after all the good revenue he's built up at Arizona?
I honestly thought he was going to wait for Florida. Honestly, that's what I thought was going to happen. But I guess he didn't want to wait that long. He wanted to go to Washington. And I will say, this is a pretty big hire. Although we won't see Washington have the magical 11-win season in 2024, but I guess we will wait and see.
Yeah, Washington, they're losing a lot, Jackson. Roma Dunze, McMillan, Polk, Michael Penix, of course, all those guys are going to be gone. And, a lot of them are going to the draft. But, but Jed Fish, just like I said with Kalen DeBoer, he was built something very special at Arizona. I think it's going to take him time to get his staff implemented here at Washington. I think Washington, they're still going to get very good recruits. They're still going to be a very highly competitive team, I think, in the new Big Ten. Now, will they be a team that will be in the championship game or in the Final Four, the playoffs every year? We don't know yet. But Jed Fish is a coach that has proven he can win with less. And at Washington, he's going to have a lot of talent to help him out. I think this is a great hire for the Huskies. I mean, Jackson, do you think, in your opinion, do you think he could take Washington to even better heights than DeBoer ever did? Or is Fish just that kind of guy that's going to be there until who knows when?
That depends on how long Jeff Fish is going to be there at Washington. I mean, we don't know if he's going to be staying at Washington for the long haul or if he's sitting and waiting for a better opportunity at another college, like, say, Florida, or if he's waiting for an NFL head coaching gig.
Yeah, that's a very interesting point you brought up there, Jackson. Was this one of those jobs because it was open and Washington's coming off such a great year he wanted to capitalize, or is he going to be committed here, or is he just waiting for the next big thing to open up? Like if a job in LA opens up with like the Rams or something, if McVay ever decides to retire, if he somehow gets fired, or if the Saints job opens, who knows? But
McVay's too young to be retiring.
well, Jackson, they retire young nowadays, especially if they don't win a Super Bowl. But that's beside the point. Overall, though, Jackson, I give this a B. I think this is a very good hire. I think Washington's still going to do a lot of winning. It just may not be national championship winning. What's your letter grade for this hire, Jackson?
A minus.
Woo! You're a little higher on it than I am. I'm tempering expectations. But that's our letter grade.
Well, I got
This.
Washington below Penn State, USC, and Oregon for the next few years for right now. But I got them above Wisconsin, Nebraska, and Iowa.
But Jackson, with Jed Fish leaving Arizona, that means Arizona's job comes open. And who steps in? Brent Benema.
Brent Brennan.
Brent Brennan. Now, Jackson, for a lot of people that don't know him, let the people know what this guy's all about and what he could bring to Arizona.
Well, he did all right at San Jose State, and not a lot of people know this, but before Jed Fish was the head coach in 2021, Brent Brennan was one of the finalists for the head coaching position at Arizona. So, second time was a charm for Brent Brennan, as he is now the new head coach at Arizona. Now, the biggest thing was a lot of the key guys like Fafita are staying with the team. They're not going anywhere. I mean, that is a big win right there. They're not losing a lot of key guys. I mean, schedule's going to be a little tougher, but can they get the job done? Can they win the Big 12? Can they compete for a Big 12 title? We don't know. We're going to have to wait and see.
Yeah, that's one of the big key things about this hire, Jackson, is, Noah Fafita is staying. And, he was like a rocket ship after that USC game where everyone kind of learned about him and found out, oh, Noah Fafita's legit. He's real. He could be a potential Heisman candidate going into 2024. But then Jed Fish leaves. And in the back of my mind, Jackson, I was thinking, oh, Fafita's going to Washington with him. This is normally how it works. But he's staying in Arizona. He's sticking it out. And he's going to be there with Brent Brennan. Now the question is, Jackson, can Brent Brennan keep up the winning that Jed Fish has created at Arizona? Is Arizona going to take a step back? Because, Jackson, for the longest time, Arizona was not a very good football team. Jed Fish built this team up and got this team to a 9-win season this past year. 9+ win season. So, can Brent Brennan keep that up, or will Arizona fall back in mediocrity? What do you think, Jackson?
Well, with the fact that a lot of the key guys have returned for 2024 so far, I think this is a huge win for the Arizona Wildcats going into their first season of the Big 12. Now, can they have another 9-win season in 2024? I guess we'll wait and see. But I believe they could be a contender. I don't know if they would be having an 11-win season like they would have with Jed Fish, but we will wait and see. But the bigger test will be what's he going to do when he has more of his guys in his roster in the next few years.
Yeah, that's going to be a big key for a lot of these coaches. When they get their guys in there, then we're going to see what truly they're made of. But I think For me, Jackson, I give this grade. I'm going to give this a B. I don't think this is necessarily a bad hire. I don't think it's a great hire. I think it's a meh hire. And I don't think Brent Bennon is going to make me change my opinion of Arizona like that with the snap of my fingers. I still think Arizona will be a bowl team next year, but will they be a team that wins 9 games, 10 games, and maybe sneaks into the playoffs? We'll have to wait and see on that. But I give it a B though. What's your letter grade, Jackson, for this hire?
I'm gonna give it right now. I give it a B minus.
That's a fair grade. Now, Jackson, this is one of the more controversial teams out there today when it comes to the coaching hirings and firings. Texas A&M, they fired their head coach Jimbo Fisher, but they bring in Mike Elko from Duke. And Jackson, we all know in SEC country, if you aren't winning, your butt is toast. And Jimbo Fisher wasn't doing enough winning for Texas A&M liking, and they were paying him over $75 million, and they were just barely making bowl games some years. Texas A&M wanted championships, and they were not getting that out of Jimbo Fisher. But could Mike Elko bring Texas A&M to the championship level? Your thoughts, Jackson?
I saw what he did at Duke. He did such a fantastic job over there the 2 years he was in Durham, North Carolina, especially when replacing David Cutcliffe. Did a tremendous job over there. I mean, the night where Duke upset Clemson on Labor Day, my first thought was not if, but when Mike Elko leaves Duke. And who is he going to leave it for? And I talked about it with Mark Rogers on The Voice of College Football. I even wondered with Ty Hudson, on a call-in they did one night where I was asking him, if Sam Pittman is fired by Arkansas, will Mike Elko be the next head coach at Arkansas? Well, Arkansas is not firing anyone yet, but they may be getting there real soon. But Texas A&M, we talk about how they almost got Mark Stoops to be the next head coach. This is no joke. But then the Kentucky radio was Let's to Kentucky, and everybody was saying, oh, no, Mark Stoops isn't going anywhere. So Stoops is staying at Texas A&M. A&M's back at square one. What happens? They go and get Mike Elko. And I think he's going to do a pretty good job, but I don't know if he's going to be having his teams compete for an SEC title or national title, but maybe at least get him to a playoff spot. I'm really not sure where they're going, but I guess we'll wait and see because they have a long record of underachieving. But hopefully Mike Elko can change that.
Yes. Hopefully Mike Elko can do that. And Jackson, we saw what he could do with less talent at Duke. I mean, he brought Duke back to relevancy. Duke was just regarded as a basketball school. Like, when you thought of Duke, oh, they're basketball. What's football? But now when you talk about Duke, you got to talk about the football team. Now, is Duke still a basketball program? Yes. But their football team, I think, has earned more respect. And that is because of Mike Elko. I mean, what he did, like you said, Jackson, beating Clemson on opening weekend this past year, was a fantastic victory. And it goes to show you that when you build a program up right and get the right players, you can beat anybody on any given night. Now, part of that could be because Clemson was not as good as we thought they were as well. But that's a whole nother conversation for another time. But you just look at what they overcame as well. With all the injuries and the fact that they still made a bowl game, and he has, gone 8-4 the last 2 years, and Riley Leonard being unhealthy for part of the season this year, and they still went 8-4, and they got a fantastic bowl victory over Troy. Just goes to show Duke football is getting really good, and Mike Elko is a big reason for that. But can he provide this for Texas A&M, where he will get 5 stars out the wazoo? We'll have to see on that. But one of the biggest key things when you come to Texas A&M is you got to beat Alabama. That's all that matters. If you don't beat Alabama, the season is a failure. Let's just be honest. Texas A&M fans, they may say, "Oh, NY6 championships." Let's be honest. All they want is to beat Alabama, because that to them is their national championship. Because Alabama has been the bane of their existence. And Mike Elko, you're now the guy that is going to be responsible for making sure you beat Alabama. So if you ain't beating Alabama consistently, you're going to be like Jimbo Fisher. They're going to be trying to run you out of town on a railroad. So just be prepared for that.
For sure. Well, luckily for them, they aren't going to have Alabama every year. But the Texas A&M rivalry is back starting in 2024. There will be an enormous amount of pressure to beat the Texas Longhorns, spoil their natty hopes. So there's going to be a lot of that.
Yeah, that'll be something else to watch out for, is Texas A&M, because if they can't beat Alabama, they'll settle for Texas. But I think overall, Jackson, for me personally, I think this is a job that I think Mike Elko is going to do very well at. But my thing is can he handle the pressure that A&M's going to bring? Because at Duke, you go 8-4, they're thrilled, they're happy, they're partying down the streets. You go 8-4 Texas A&M, they're ready to run you out of town. So can he handle that pressure is my question. Well, I think he can. And Jackson, I think this is going to be a great hire for Texas A&M. I think for me, this is an A+ hiring for Texas A&M. What is your letter grade?
I'm gonna say A- for right now.
I can see why you think that. I mean, for me, it's A+. I think Mike Elko, if he could take get Duke to 8-9 wins every year, I think he could certainly bring Texas A&M back to national relevancy and back to the playoff picture. But with Mike Elko out at Duke, Jackson, they need someone to step up and fill those shoes. And it just happens to be Manny Diaz, the former Miami head coach and Penn State defensive coordinator. Interesting hire. And Jackson, when this hire was made, a lot of people questioned if this was the right hire because of his history at Miami. But Jackson, what do you think of this hire? And do you think Manny Diaz can succeed in his second go-around as a head coach?
I think right now, Manny Diaz is the new Will Muschamp of college football. Matter of fact, he's the Will Muschamp of the ACC. That's my take on it. I hope he can continue the success that was put upon by Duke from David Cutcliffe and Mike Elko. But right now, I'm just not seeing it.
That's a fair assessment, Jackson. I understand why you feel that way because of what he did at Miami. But you got to think too, Jackson, we all grow as people, right?
True.
Maybe he's grown as a person and as a coach, and maybe now he's ready to step into a program like Duke, who doesn't always get all the 5 stars and doesn't have all this talent and has all this expectations. Because Jackson, wouldn't you say at Duke, 8 wins is their expectation now?
Oh,
Do
for
do you
sure.
do you expect Duke to be anywhere close to the playoffs?
No. No.
So you could see why this job will fit really well, in my opinion, because he just makes a bowl game. Duke fans are going to be thrilled. As
Oh, yeah.
Miami making a bowl game, it's a disaster in their opinion. They want to win championships. I think this is a great hire. I'm liking where this is going. I think Manny Diaz has shown at Penn State, especially with that top-notch defenses he puts out every year. I think he's going to be giving the ACC some more trouble, Jackson, and I think Duke could be a dark horse contender in 2024 to win the ACC. I'm giving this an A plus higher. I'm giving this A plus, Jackson. I'm really on the Manny Diaz Duke train. I like where this is going. What about you, good buddy? Are you with me, or are you going to stay off the train for now?
Well, for right now, I'm staying off the train. I'm giving this a C for Duke because
That's fair. That's fair. I mean, time will tell. But Jackson, we're going to look back at this and be
well,
like,
I'm gonna be higher on this next hire. I promise you that.
we will get to that next hire here in just a second. But Jackson, we're going to look back at this, and we're going to look back at this next year, and we're going to be like, man, you should have jumped on that train with Austin, or I should have jumped on that with Jackson. I think this is going to be one, Jackson, that you're going to look back on and say, I should have jumped on the train, should have done it, but that's
I
okay.
think this is a 4-year run that we're gonna have to figure this out. Like, 4 years from now, we'll have to look back on this.
Yes, because you got to give everybody time. But Jackson, speaking of time, is time indeed on the side of Kurt Signetti and Indiana?
Oh yeah.
Because Tom Allen got fired. Kurt Signetti, who did a lot of winning at James Madison and was able to get them bowl eligible because of all the losses that happened during the last week of the season. And now Jackson, he plans on bringing some of that winning over to the Hoosier State and hoping to bring Indiana back to bowl season. But in his quest, Jackson, he's going to have a long road to do that. And can he get it done? Your take on this hire.
Well, I got 3 words. Can't get done. Yes, definitely. Absolutely. He can get it done. I mean, the man has a history of winning, especially at James Madison, University of Elon, and University of Iowa. He was a former Saban assistant as a wide receivers coach. And I kind of feel like this has Matt Campbell, Lance Leopold vibes written all over it. This is my comparison to it because, nobody thought Iowa State could win until Matt Campbell showed up. Nobody thought Kansas could win until Lance Leopold showed up. Those guys have been doing very well consistently at Kansas and Iowa State. And I think Kurt Signetti can do the same thing over at Indiana.
Yeah, I agree 100% with you, Jackson. But here's the thing, Jackson. I'm not on this train with you. I'm sorry. I can't get on this train with you. Like, I want to, but it's like Jackson, I believed in Indiana. I try to put my faith in them, but they just don't recruit for their football team. They don't put the money and investment in it that's my biggest issue with it. Is Kurt Signetti has proven he can win. 100% agree with you, but is Indiana going to put the money into the program to help him out, or are they just going to put it all into basketball? Because they're primarily a basketball school. I think we can all agree on that. Yeah. So, do you think, Jackson, that they're going to make this investment? And if they do, I think they could do what you said. I think they could get 6-7 wins, but are they going to make the investment for it?
I think they could. I think they could make the investment for the football program and the basketball program. They can make this, and hopefully Mike Woodson does better at Indiana basketball. And I got a feeling Kurt Cincinnati can get Indiana the bowl games. I mean, we're not going to see Big Ten titles in Bloomington for college football. That's not going to happen. But will we see like 6-win seasons, 7-win seasons at Indiana? Absolutely. We could see that one big surprise winning season, that one big surprise year where they have like a really unexpected big season. I mean, we could see that happen over in Bloomington, especially with Kurt Cincinnati. And the man is 62 years old, so I mean, he's got a few years going at Indiana.
Yeah, like Jackson, I hope that he could get it right for the Hoosiers, and hopefully he can get a Lance Leopold going here. Because if you remember, Kansas didn't fund their football program that much either. But then once Lance Leopold got them going and winning some games, he was like, then the program was like, oh, maybe we should invest a little time and money into this. And now they got this brand new facility that they're building for the football team. They're getting all these sponsorships. It's like all cooking over there. I hope for Indiana they could get that done. But Jackson, I'm giving this a C minus as a hire. A C minus. Well, what are you giving this hire?
I'm giving this a B plus, man. I'm giving this a B plus. Shoot, next few years I may give this an A plus.
I'm gonna stick at a C minus, and it's nothing against Kurt Cincinnati. It's just the way Indiana's going. I think he's set up for a very rough road ahead. But Jackson, speaking of a coach that was set up for a rough road to begin, that was Zach Arnett at Mississippi State, who got fired and was replaced by Jeff Libby. And Jackson, this one come with some special circumstances. Rest in peace to Mike Leach. He passed away sadly. And, that was very unfortunate circumstances. But, Jackson, I just can't help but feel that maybe Zach Arnett wasn't set up for the best success that he could have been at Mississippi State. And it just felt like this wasn't going to work from the beginning. What was your take on this? And do you think Zach Arnett was given a fair crack at it?
No, he wasn't. I mean, I honestly thought he would at least get a second year. But then again, the AD that didn't bring in Arnett was not there. So the AD that's currently there was like, I didn't bring this guy in. I'm bringing in my own guy. So you got to go, Zach Arnett. It's not fair, but that's the world we live in.
Yeah, Jackson, I think it's just sad that, like, here's the thing, Jackson. I don't like bringing this up because it brings the mood down. But Mike Leach, he did a lot of winning at Mississippi State. He helped the Bulldogs, and, he created the air raid offense. And Zach Arnett, was trying to create a new style of offense, implement his new offense on such a short notice. And it wasn't set up for success from the beginning. And I just feel so bad. And Jackson, and you look at it, their schedule didn't really help them either. I mean, they played Ole Miss, they played Alabama. I mean, that right there.
LSU.
And LSU. And they played Kentucky. It was just like the schedule was not set up in their favor either. So it was just kind of like the fact that they went 5-7, Jackson, I'll never know how. But congrats for getting to 5-7. Because I was thinking,
I don't know if I give a congrats for that. I mean, they won 7-3 against Arkansas. I mean, that was bad.
Like Jackson, they need something because Jackson, there could have been a world where they could have went 2-10. Cover your ears, Mississippi State fans. Cover your ears. But it seemed like that disastrous this past year. But Jackson, Jeff Libby is now the new head man at Mississippi State. And is he set up better for success now? That is the question. What do you think?
Well, he's got an AD backing him, so I guess we're gonna wait and see.
I will say Jackson. Now, depending on Mississippi State's schedule, that's going to have to do with a lot of if Zach Libby can succeed. Does he have Alabama or Georgia on the schedule this year? Because that'll help a lot.
Well, they have to go to Georgia and they have to go to Texas, but they don't have Alabama, and you're going to be shocked by this. They don't have LSU on the schedule. So that's a shocker right there.
So
but it does help a little bit.
Yeah, so Jackson, they avoid most of the big boys in the SEC. So there is a chance they could make a bowl. Georgia, that sucks. You got to play them, especially in Athens. And, Ole Miss is a rivalry game. Who knows how that'll go? Rivalry games are funny. You get blocked field goals or kick sixes. Sorry, good buddy. I know Alabama still has flashbacks from the kick six, the pick six at the goal line, all that good stuff. But hopefully for him, the schedule is not too difficult and they can maybe win 6-7 games. Maybe even surprise the world and win 8 if it goes really well. But I will give this a C+. I think it's going to take some time, and hopefully Mississippi State is patient with this one. But I'll give it a C+. What about you, good buddy?
I'm going to give this a C-.
Well, Jackson, at least we're being very kind to all these head coaches. But the question is, are we going to be kind to this next head coach? Syracuse, they fired Dino Babers, but in comes Brown.
Brown.
Mm-hmm. Well, Jackson, for a lot of people that don't know Fran Brown or don't know much history about him, talk just a little bit about what he will be doing at Syracuse and some of the history behind him.
Well, so far, he's done a terrific job recruiting for Syracuse for the 2024 recruiting class and for the future recruiting classes as well. But can that translate onto the field? We will have to wait and see on that because we don't know. But as a sign to show that things are going all right over in Syracuse, New York, we'll just have to see whether they quit and blow up every time they lose the big game. On the bright side, Clemson's not on their schedule every year anymore. So they'll just play them every now and again.
Yeah. And Jackson, this is one of those hires. It's one of those that it's an in-house hire. It's one of those, it's not one of the more sexier hires in the coaching carousel. And I just think it's one of those, I think it's a good hire. It's someone who knows your system and knows how it runs. There's not much to say because Dino Babers kind of had one foot in the grave, so to speak, already. And then after they blew it against Clemson last year, and then barely went from 6-0 to 6-6, and then this year doing the same thing again. You see the common trend that Jackson just hinted at. It's after Clemson every year, or they beat Clemson and then it's like woo, and then they forget they still got half their schedule remaining. You can't be doing that. So hopefully Fran Brown can get this team rolling, and if they beat Clemson, hopefully he keeps them from losing 6 in a row. But I'm going to give this a C. What about you, Jackson?
I want to give it a B-.
Yeah, I'm going to give it a C. I'm going to wait and see what happens, but it should be interesting. Well, Jackson, another head coach and I'll let you introduce this one. You know, our friend at Houston, Mr. Holgerson had a very interesting road to this point. Take it away.
You know, that 2022 season, their last year in the AAC, I asked that question, a year back. I was like, is Dana Holgerson a hot seat coach? Because it kind of feels like he is. He has to have at least a better season going into the first season of the Big 12. Well, unfortunately, they didn't. They fell apart to 4-8. I mean, you lost a double overtime to Rice on the NFL Network. You can't be losing the food, Houston. And what saved your butt for a little bit was that Hail Mary pass against West Virginia. I mean, that was a winner right there. A huge winner. But you didn't do that much ever since there, Coach Holgerson. So what happens? You got to go. You're the weakest link. But who do they bring in? Willie Fritz from Tulane. This guy has been a consistent winner. He did a great job over at Sam Houston State, did a terrific job over at Tulane, especially the last 2 years in 2022 and 2023. Now we're going to see what he can do over at Houston. And I think this is going to be his last stop because, he's 63. He'll turn 64 this year. So I think he's going to spend like 5 years over there. So I think he'll do all right over in Houston.
Yeah, this is a very interesting hire, especially someone coming from a school like Tulane, who, funny enough, is another one of Jackson's, one of his teams, as we quote unquote like to poke it in for. Willie Fritz did a really good job at Tulane with Michael Pratt, Tajay Spears, all the talent that he had, and that incredible 2022 that he had, beating USC in the Goodyear Cotton Bowl and bringing Tulane to the non-Power 5 relevancy and making people realize Tulane could be a legit team that could be making New Year's Sixes every year. But now he's coming to the Power 5 conference in the Big 12 where they're adding Colorado, adding Arizona, adding Utah, and not to mention Iowa State and TCU. And he's coming to a rugged Big 12 where it doesn't get any easier. This Jackson feels like Willie Fritz is going to have the weight of the world on his shoulders, but I feel like he's up for the challenge, especially if he gets talent around him. I like this hire for Houston. Now the question is, though, Jackson, what will be the standard, though? Does Houston expect Willie Fritz to come in and have this team competing for the Big 12, or does he just expect a bowl wins, being a bowl team and bowl winning every year? That'll be the big question there.
I think, honestly, they're going to expect at least 8-win or 9-win seasons. I mean, it should be easier to achieve without Texas and Oklahoma in the Big 12. But then again, you're going to have to deal with Utah in the Big 12. You're going to have to deal with a lot of tougher competition as well. But can they get done? We'll wait and see. I think they can. I'm going to give this hire an A-.
I'm going to give this hire a B+. I like this hire. I think it'll benefit both sides. But I think since it's going to be a coach that's going to the Big 12, it could be trouble early on if he doesn't get his right staff implemented and get things going. But another interesting head coaching debacle that we just found out not too long ago, Jeff Hafley will be the new defensive coordinator for the Green Bay Packers, but his replacement, we do not know yet, as we can report. But as soon as we do, we will report that. But Jackson, since we can't really grade this as much as we can the others, just give our quick thoughts on, do you think Jeff Hafley is an upgrade at defense coordinator for the Packers?
I think he can be, but I'm just wondering if there's any more conference expansion. Does that mean Hafley read the room and is like, I'm gonna get out of here while I still can? Because Boston College, I feel like is gonna be the next Oregon State, Washington State. I feel like they could be left out of the room.
Ooh, no. Jackson, Boston College fans do not like to hear that.
I hope I'm wrong, Boston College. I really hope I'm wrong, but I kind of feel like if things are hitting the fan with the ACC with what's going on right now, the SEC and Big Ten, they're going to be picking them clean, and the Big 12 is going to get some of the leftover meat. I don't think Boston College is going to be one of the leftover meat pieces.
Well, I can't say this for sure. I think this is a good hire for the Packers, though, because Joe Barry, Jackson, he had his bright spots at Green Bay, but he also had his not so good moments. Because Jackson, they did give up a lot of points to a lot of teams, especially in their wild card victory. Yes, over my Cowboys, they gave up 32 points and they gave up 24 to the 49ers. They give up a lot of points, and you simply just cannot win by getting in shootouts. It's just not how it works. Like, just ask USC about that. Like, no offense, USC, but you can't be winning 51-49. You just can't.
Nope.
You can't get nowhere with that. But that was Jeff Hafley, is going to be the new Packers DC. We will grade this when we find out who Boston College gets as their new head coach. But on to our last two of this head coaching carousel, and one of the more controversial ones, Jackson.
I'll go along with some honorable mentions and some of the group of five.
Go for it.
So before we go through Michigan State, Oregon State, we got some honorable mentions. Spencer Danielson as the new head coach of Boise State, because he took over as interim coach, led Boise State to the Mount West Conference title game after Andy Avalos was kind of doing a meh job over at Boise State. He was not getting them to the standards that they're used to. So what does Danielson do? Get him to a Mount West title, then they hire him. Then we see Bronco Mendenhall get hired as the Nets head coach at New Mexico. Question is, can he become the net? Will he be like Craig Bowl at Wyoming? That's going to be the question there. I think Bronco Mendenhall can get the job done over at New Mexico. And we see Sean Lewis was the Nets head coach at San Diego State after Brady Hoke retired, left the OC job at Colorado, and I got a feeling he can do pretty good there. And we see San Jose State hire Ken Niumatalolo from Navy, fantastic head coach over at Navy, gave Notre Dame a run for their money, was part of the coaching staff in 2007 when Navy ended that long 42 game losing streak to Notre Dame. That was big right there. Can he continue the winning standards over at San Jose State? Can he get them higher? That'll be the question there. Onward to Michigan State and East Lansing as Mel Tucker got fired for doing some nasty business in the back room. You can't be doing that. That's a no-no. But then comes Jonathan Smith from Corvallis, Oregon. What is your take on this hire, Austin?
Yeah, Jackson, this was one that, it all started good. I mean, Michigan State went 11-2, won the Peach Bowl in 2021, and a lot of people were thinking Michigan State was going to be a prominent player in the Big Ten to win. maybe even compete in the Big Ten with the Ohio States and the Michigans of the world. And then it's just like, then they disintegrated right from out under us. And then this past year, Jackson, they were a dumpster fire if I ever seen one. And then Mel Tucker got fired. And then he tried to sue Michigan State. It just got messy real quick. But then in comes Jonathan Smith after the merciful season ended. So Jonathan Smith comes in, and Jackson, unfortunately, we know why he came in. Because Oregon State didn't join a conference, and he did not want to be playing a Notre Dame type schedule that they were going to have to face. He would rather be in a conference, a Power 5 conference, which is understandable because Oregon State and Washington State, unfortunately, did not get no offers. And that leaves many fans wondering, why didn't they get any offers? Well, looks like we maybe got our answer right here. Maybe Jonathan Smith read the room and was like, Oregon State, I built you up the best I can, but maybe you're just not appealing to these other conferences.
It's unfortunate, but that's the way the news is heading for Oregon State, Washington. We don't know where they're going. Hopefully, they get accepted by the ACC, and hopefully, something good happens for them. We don't know what's going to happen for them. I mean, we know the schedules are set in a way, but at the same time, we don't really know what's going to happen for the future in Corvallis and Pullman. As for Michigan State, I think they'll be all right for now. I don't think they're going to be going to Duffy Dark-Heady standards where they're going to national titles, but will they have a say in who wins the Big Ten? Abso-freaking-lutely, especially with Jonathan Smith as head coach. Question is, will he regret going to Michigan State and think to himself, I should have waited for Washington or UCLA to open up, or is he going to be happy in East Lansing?
Yeah, that's going to be interesting, Jackson, especially like you said. I mean, we see what he did for Oregon State. He built them up, he built them from the ground up, and made them into a top 25 team. So, can he bring Michigan State out of the rubble and bring them back to the Big Ten power level? I think he can. I like this hire. I'm giving this hire an A minus. I think, like you said, Jackson, Michigan State's going to be kind of that spoiler, like, oh, playing Ohio State before rivalry week, or playing Oregon, Washington, playing some teams like that, and then spoiling their season. I could see that, especially with Jonathan Smith and the new talent that he's going to be bringing in and the new staff. I feel like Michigan State's going to get back on track, but I give this an A minus. What about you?
I'm going to give it a B plus for right now.
Yeah, that's very interesting, and it's very fair. We'll have to see what unfolds. But Jackson, as that unfolds, Oregon State, as we just mentioned, lost Jonathan Smith to Michigan State, but in comes Trent Bray, who was on the staff. He's in-house, but Oregon State is in complux because no conference accepted them. The ACC shunned them. The Big 12 shunned them. The SEC and Big 10 didn't think they were a big enough brand, and now they will be playing a Mountain West type schedule. So, Jackson, can Trent Bray keep Oregon State respectable, or is it going downhill?
We don't know yet. We really don't know. But it doesn't hurt to win 9 or 10 games. It doesn't hurt for sure.
Yeah, this is one we'll have to wait and see, because let's be honest, Oregon State, it sucks that no conference took them, but none of this all could have been avoided if the Pac-12 would have just got their TV deal faster. But
True.
we know how things go, Jackson. money rules everything at the end of the day. And unfortunately for Oregon State, Washington State, they got left out to dry. And
I
that's one of the big.
hope.
Go
Go
ahead.
ahead. I hope the 2-year grace period works out for Oregon State and Washington State, but I really just don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. I hope for Oregon State, Washington State, they continue to make bowl games at least, but it should be interesting. Jackson, I'll let you finish this off. What are you giving? What letter grade are you giving this hire? Do you like this hire or no?
I'm gonna give it a C plus for now.
I'm gonna give this hire a C minus. It's not one of the better hires, but it should do for now. But Jackson, there is one thing we do need to mention before we get out of here. Chip Kelly, there has been rumors that Chip Kelly could be out of UCLA. Jackson, do you find any truth in that, or is that just all talk at the moment, in your opinion?
I'm honestly not surprised by the rumors because, we heard constant talks as to whether Chip Kelly was going to be gone. Is he going to be fired after 2023? Is he staying on? UCLA's not reading the room. Oh, they beat USC. Yeah, he's going to keep his job. Oh, crap. They got smacked 33-7 by Cal. Cal, of all teams. Cal! That's bad. It's like you're giving up on yourself, bro. Can't do that.
But then Jackson, then they beat Boise State in the LA Bowl, and then the talks go away again. And now the talks are back. Which is it, UCLA? Are you getting rid of him or not? Make up your mind. The show will go on with or without you.
I can tell you this. It's going to get really ugly for UCLA with or without Chip Kelly in the first season of the Big Ten because they lost a lot of their staff. They lost a lot of key players to the transfer portal because of all this uncertainty. They don't know what's happening. They don't know. It's a complete total nightmare over there. They sure as heck don't have a home field advantage, evidenced by that loss to Arizona State last season in 2023. Bad look for the Bruins. And shown against Arizona in 2022. It's like they forget how to play football the week before they play USC.
Jackson, this ought to tell you all you need to know. When they played Colorado this year, half that stadium was full of Colorado fans. Like UCLA, they fill up the building with their opponents. I mean, when they played USC, half that building was USC fans. Like UCLA fans, they just care about their basketball. They just want football to be respectable.
Yeah. It's a complete and total nightmare over at UCLA. I mean, I can say this. If Chip Kelly is staying for 2024, I don't think there is an after 2024 for the Chip Kelly era at UCLA. Those chips are cashed.
Well, Jackson, not unless UCLA somehow wins 10, 11 games and wins the Big Ten somehow. Then maybe those chips will be left on the table. But who are we kidding, Jackson? UCLA ain't winning the Big Ten. Who are we kidding?
No. I mean, that schedule is going to be a nightmare. I mean, they got to go to LSU. They got Oregon coming to their backyard. They got to go to Penn State. They got to go to Nebraska. They have Iowa coming over. They got to go to Washington. And they got USC coming over to the granddaddy of them all. I don't see how UCLA can get through all this.
I don't either, Jackson. But that was some of the speculation and rumors out there that we thought we would touch on because that is circulating again. And Jackson, it's funny that during almost because we're at the Super Bowl, and of course these rumors are speculating now. Chip Kelly always wants to be in the spotlight. You remember the first week of the college football playoff rankings? They were like, they were going to announce whether Chip Kelly was staying or not. And then it's like, oh, he's staying. And then it's like, oh, maybe he's not. And then we thought it was going to interrupt our playoff rankings. UCLA, you're attention hogs.
Ain't nothing but attention hound dogs crying all the time.
Whatever they do, I hope they do it after Super Bowl Sunday. That way we can enjoy our Super Bowl and not have to worry about what Chip Kelly and them are doing. But speaking of worrying about what we're doing, Jackson, before we head on out here for tonight, you know, we got to let the people in on what we're doing and what we're talking about. So, Jackson, I'll let you start. What do you got going on over on the Jacksonian? But because I see you over there cooking up them hamburgers with double cheese. What other special sauces are you putting on it?
Well, I'm getting some episodes ready, and I'm in talks with some people. There's some episodes coming on the way right here on Jackson Johnson 979 on YouTube and on Twitter at Jackson0996 0335. Got some episodes coming soon, but you will also see me tomorrow night on The Voice of College Football on College Football After Dark, where we go over the 2024 ACC schedule preview. Of course, you can check me out on YouTube at Johnson979. You can also check me out on Twitter at Jackson0996 0335 and on Instagram and Threads at Johnson543908. Austin, what have you got planned right on YouTube and on Twitter?
You can find me at www.youtube.com at Sports Talk with Austin 2002, my YouTube channel. You can find me on Twitter at AustinW19802639. You know, on YouTube, I plan on doing a bunch more live streams because we're in the off season of college football. We're going to do some college basketball live streams, talk about March Madness coming up. And, we're going to talk about a little Louisville basketball. We're going to talk about that. Maybe stream some games if I get some time, even though Louisville, we're not very good at the moment. But, yeah, you love who you love. But got a lot of great things coming out. Should be fun. But if you enjoy our content, enjoy our channels, make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Click on our notification bells. Let's get Jackson to 500, and let's get me to 100, and let's get this thing popping, everybody. And this has been the 2023-2024 Coaching Carousels, but we're out this thing. Peace, love, go Cards.